I want you to imagine, just for a second, that you are walking through a dense, silent forest.
And I mean incredibly silent.
Yeah, exactly. Like no birds, no wind. The canopy of leaves is so thick that the sun can't even punch through.
You'd be totally disoriented.
Right. And you've been walking for days. You are completely out of food. You're starving. But, you're not alone. You are walking with someone you thought was a friend.
A fellow traveler.
Yeah, a companion who has a whole bag full of bread. So you ask them for just one piece to survive.
Yeah.
And they look at you, completely deadpan, and they say, I will give you a piece of bread. But in exchange, you have to let me cut out your right eye.
God, it strips away all the polite, functional rules of society in a fraction of a second.
It really does.
You're left with this incredibly raw, brutal transaction that forces you to ask, well, what happens to human morality when resources hit absolute zero?
And that terrifying scenario is exactly where we are starting today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at a story that sounds honestly like a modern psychological thriller.
Oh, easily, like a high-stakes survival movie.
Right. But it actually comes straight from the Brothers Grimm.
Yeah.
It's a classic text called The Two Travelers, or Die, Beiden, Wanderer.
A fantastic, vivid narrative.
It is. And our mission today is to sort of strip away the fairy tale trappings. You know? We aren't just looking at talking animals or magic. We're treating this as a profound psychological stress test of two completely opposing worldviews.
Which is such an interesting way to read it.
On one side, you have endless, almost reckless optimism, and on the other, deep, paranoid cynicism.
And that is an incredibly relevant framework for how people operate today. I mean, the story sets up this laboratory condition to see what happens when these two philosophies collide under extreme life-or-death survival pressure.
So let's get right into those two distinct philosophies. We have two main figures who cross paths on the road.
Right? Our travelers.
First, we got a Tailor. He's small, merry, constantly singing. When he makes a bit of money, he shares it immediately, buys drinks for everyone in the tavern. His whole philosophy is lightly earned, lightly spent.
Very much a live-in-the-moment kind of guy.
The ultimate live-in-the-moment guy. But walking toward him from the other direction is our second traveler, a shoemaker. And the text describes him as having a face like he just drank vinegar.
Which is such a great image.
It's perfect. He's grumpy, he hoards his resources, and his personal motto is, the bigger the rogue, the bigger the luck.
Yeah, he fundamentally believes the world is a hostile, zero-sum game, right?
Okay.
Where only the ruthless get ahead.
Exactly. So they decide to travel together to a royal city to find work, which sets up their first critical decision.
And this is where it gets tense.
Yeah, they reach that dark, silent forest I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And there are two paths to the city. One takes 7 days, the other takes 2 days. But they have absolutely no idea which path is which.
Right, and this is where their worldviews dictate their reality. The cynical shoemaker, he immediately plans for the worst-case scenario.
Naturally.
He buys 7 days' worth of bread and hauls it onto his back. He actually says one must think further than one walks.
Which, okay, I got to stop you right there. If we pause on that, that is just solid, responsible advice.
Oh, completely. It's practical.
But the Tailor refuses to do the same. He says he trusts in God. He doesn't want to carry a heavy load like a pack animal.
Right.
And he actually complains that the bread will just get dry and moldy anyway in the summer heat. So he only buys 2 days' worth of bread.
Just kind of assuming the universe will magically guide them down the 2-day path.
Yeah, good vibes only.
Mm-hmm.
And, spoiler alert, they randomly pick a path, and it is the 7-day route.
Of course it is. And the physical weight of that bread immediately becomes a metaphor for their psychological states. Because for those first 2 days, the shoemaker is miserable.
Completely silent, right?
Yeah, he doesn't speak a word. The heavy bread on his back makes the sweat just pour down his resentful face. He is literally physically burdened by his own paranoia and preparedness.
Okay, but I have to push back here.
Yeah.
Because I am totally on the shoemaker side in this specific moment.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, the text might frame the shoemaker as burdened and drumpy, but if we look at this through a modern survival lens, the Tailor is a walking liability.
Wow.
He reminds me of that annoying person who goes on a grueling mountain hike with no water, no map, and just assumes things will work out. I mean, if they hadn't met on the road, the Tailor would have just died on day 3.
That's a fair point.
Isn't this just massive survivorship bias wrapped in a fairy tale? The Tailor's approach is actually a terrible, completely irresponsible survival strategy.
Okay, that is a very fair critique of the Tailor's practical intelligence. In a vacuum, his lack of preparation is absolutely foolish.
Right.
But we have to look at the psychological cost of the shoemaker's mindset. The story uses this extreme setup to isolate a specific psychological phenomenon, which is the scarcity mindset.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
The shoemaker has all the food he needs, right? Yet he is suffering immensely before the hunger even sets in.
He's suffering from the weight of his own supplies.
Exactly. His mind is so consumed by the fear of future starvation that it reduces his current cognitive bandwidth to basically zero. He can't enjoy the walk. He can't converse. He is crushed by the weight of his own anxiety.
So he survives, but at what cost?
Right. His hyper-pragmatism saves his physical life, but his hoarding mentality isolates him completely. It rots his soul.
While the tailor is, meanwhile, literally whistling on a leaf and singing songs for the first 2 days.
Having a great time.
Having a blast. He has no anxiety about tomorrow. But obviously, reality does catch up.
It always does.
By day 3, his food is gone. By day 5, the tailor cannot even stand up. He's pale, his eyes are red. I mean, he is physically dying.
And that's when he begs the shoemaker for a piece of bread.
Yeah. And this is where the shoemaker's zero-sum philosophy just metastasizes into cruelty. He doesn't just say no.
Right, he mocks him. He quotes this awful proverb, something like, "The birds that sing too early in the morning are caught by the hawk in the evening."
Wow.
Just rubbing it in.
Which brings us to that horrific extortion from the start of the deep dive. The shoemaker demands the tailor's right eye for a single piece of bread.
It's so visceral.
The tailor weeps, but, I mean, he wants to live, so he agrees. The shoemaker takes a sharp knife and cuts it out. And then 2 days later, the starvation returns.
Because, of course, the bread ran out again.
Exactly. And the shoemaker demands the left eye. The tailor is now completely blind, and the shoemaker just leads him out of the forest, dumps him under a gallows where 2 criminals have been hanged, and abandons him.
And we really have to ask why the shoemaker feels the need to do this.
Right. He has enough bread, he could just share it.
Or, I mean, if he's truly ruthless, he can just say no, let the tailor starve, and walk away. Why demand the eyes?
Yeah, why the mutilation?
It comes back to how paranoia fundamentally alters human behavior. When you believe the world is inherently hostile, you view every relationship as a power struggle.
Everyone is a potential enemy.
Precisely. The shoemaker isn't just extracting payment. He is neutralizing a perceived future threat. By blinding the tailor, he ensures the tailor can never take revenge or surpass him later.
Oh, wow. So he's using his temporary leverage, the bread, to inflict permanent damage.
He destroys his companion because he can.
That is so bleak. But that makes the location where he abandons the tailor so fascinating. He leaves a blind, starving man under a gallows, a literal place of execution.
Under the corpses of the hanged men.
Yeah. The tailor falls asleep there. And when he wakes up at dawn, he hears the 2 hanged men talking to each other.
As you do in a grim tale.
Naturally.
Annabelle.
And they reveal a secret. The morning dew that falls from the gallows overnight has miraculous healing properties.
Such a striking image.
The tailor takes his handkerchief, soaks up the dew, washes his empty eye sockets, and his sight is perfectly restored.
And the location of this miracle is arguably the most critical thematic pivot in the entire text.
Let's dig into that. Because using the dew of executed criminals as a medical cure is such a macabre, unsettling detail. Why not a magical spring? Or a holy priest? Why hanged men?
Because it completely subverts our standard assumptions about societal labels and where morality actually resides. It is a direct critique of the respectable bourgeois class.
How so?
Well, look at who committed the atrocity against the tailor. A shoemaker. A respectable tradesman. A functional, paying member of society who plans ahead.
The guy society tells us is the good guy.
Exactly. Yet his respectable pragmatism is exactly what gave him the justification to commit a barbaric act. On the flip side, salvation comes from the environment of the condemned.
From the outcasts.
Right, from people society has literally executed. The respectable world blinded him, but the world of the condemned restores his vision.
That is incredible.
The Grimms are showing us that institutional respectability is often a mask for profound cruelty, while grace is often found among the discarded.
That forces you to really question your assumptions. So, okay, the tailor has his sight back. He sees the sun, he sees the royal city in the distance.
But he's still starving.
Right. He hasn't eaten, he survived the rock bottom, but his physical crisis is still totally active. So as he walks toward the city, he encounters a series of animals. A young foal, a stork, a mother duck with her ducklings, and a hive of wild bees.
And in each of these encounters, he has the opportunity to consume or exploit them to survive.
Which is the ultimate test of his character. I mean, he is days away from death. Biology is screaming at him to extract calories from his environment.
He holds the power of life and death over these creatures, just as the shoemaker held it over him.
But he suppresses that raw survival instinct. The foal begs not to be ridden, the stork begs not to be roasted, the ducks beg not to be eaten, and the bees promise to help him if he doesn't steal their honey.
And what does he do?
In every single instance, the tailor lets them go. He spares all of them. He walks away empty-handed, joking to himself, saying something like, 3 empty dishes and nothing on the 4th, that's a bad meal.
Which is just wild optimism.
It is. But looking at this behavior, it feels like a textbook example of investing in karmic venture capital.
Karmic venture capital. I love that framing. Elaborate on that a bit.
Think about it. He has 0 physical capital. He's literally starving, but he has situational leverage over these animals. Instead of extracting short-term value from them to solve his immediate crisis.
Which is exactly the zero-sum strategy the shoemaker used.
Right, exactly. Instead of doing that, he chooses to invest in long-term goodwill. He's basically building a distributed network. He has no idea how or when a duck or a bee is going to pay out dividends, but he is diversifying his social portfolio by putting goodwill out into the ecosystem.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. In evolutionary biology and psychology, this is known as reciprocal altruism.
Reciprocal altruism.
Yeah. The shoemaker is playing a one-off game. He takes what he can, and he burns the bridge. The tailor is playing an iterated game. He understands that he exists within an interconnected system.
A community.
Exactly. But the psychological triumph here goes even deeper than just strategy. The text notes that the tailor remembered his mother's adage, which is, eat what you may, suffer what you must.
That's a powerful line.
It shows he has internalized the idea that his own suffering does not give him permission to inflict suffering on others. By refusing to exploit the vulnerable, he actively breaks the cycle of abuse that the shoemaker started.
He refuses to become the monster that hurt him.
Exactly. The shoemaker tried to teach him that the world is ruthless, so you must be ruthless back.
Yeah.
The tailor fundamentally rejects that lesson.
And that rejection is what finally propels him out of the forest and into the city. He arrives with an empty stomach, but an intact soul.
And things start to turn around for him.
They do. He finds work, his natural talent makes him famous, and eventually the king actually appoints him as the official court tailor. He achieves stability.
But, stability in a fairy tale never lasts.
It never does.
Yeah.
Because guess who else is working at the court?
The shoemaker.
Yep, the shoemaker. And when he sees the tailor walking around the palace, alive, with 2 perfectly healthy eyes, his guilt and paranoia just absolutely redline.
Well, yeah, because the shoemaker projects his own worldview onto the tailor. The shoemaker assumes that because he would seek violent revenge in this scenario, the tailor must be planning to destroy him.
So the shoemaker launches a preemptive strike. He goes to the king and starts spreading rumors that the tailor is like this arrogant magician who's been boasting about being able to perform impossible tasks.
Which sparks a really intense sequence.
Yeah, the king, who apparently just believes whatever random rumors he hears, threatens the tailor with death or permanent underground imprisonment unless he can complete a series of completely absurd trials.
Notice how the narrative structure aligns here, though. The tailor spared a diverse set of animals in the forest, and now he faces a diverse set of impossible challenges from institutional power.
And these challenges aren't just difficult. They are physically impossible for a human. The king demands he dive into a lake to retrieve a lost crown. He demands a massive, intricate wax replica of the entire royal castle, inside and out, built overnight.
Just crazy demands.
And then he demands a crystal-clear fountain of water to erupt from the solid ground of the courtyard.
Oh, and the wildest one. He tells the tailor to bring him a baby boy through the air.
Right, out of nowhere.
It's so weird, but honestly, I have to pause here. Isn't the king the real villain here? He's blindly listening to rumors and threatening a guy with execution.
It's easy to see him as the villain, sure. But we should look at the king's behavior metaphorically. He's demanding impossible things, right?
Yeah.
Constantly threatening a talented artisan based on a rumor.
Yeah, he's a terrible boss.
He is. But the king really represents the arbitrary, sometimes cruel, and entirely unpredictable nature of fate.
You cannot control the unreasonable demands the world or the economy or a terrible boss will suddenly place on you. The vital takeaway for you, the listener, is how the animals succeed in helping the tailor.
Right, because the tailor doesn't suddenly develop magical powers.
No, he goes out to the courtyard weeping, completely convinced he's dead, but the animals return.
His investments pay off. The ducks dive into the lake and fetch the crown. The bees fly to the castle, inspect the architecture, and build a perfect wax replica.
The foal, which is now a powerful, full-grown horse, gallops in and stomps the earth so hard a geyser erupts.
And for that last weird task, the stork flies in carrying a baby boy, along with colorful sugar peas for the princesses. It's just wild.
But look at the mechanism of that success. It isn't just arbitrary magic. It is the application of highly specialized, diverse biological traits.
Natural skills of the animals.
Exactly. The tailor couldn't hold his breath underwater, he couldn't build in wax, he couldn't fracture bedrock, and he certainly couldn't fly. He survived the king's arbitrary cruelty only because he could access a distributed network of specialized skills.
Skills he only had access to because he built a network based on mutual respect rather than exploitation.
It's an ecosystem defeating a monolith.
Oh, I love that. The shoemaker tried to survive by hoarding a single resource bread, a monolith. The tailor survives by nurturing an ecosystem.
And the irony is just incredible. The shoemaker's sabotage completely backfires.
It really does. The shoemaker forces the tailor into these trials out of paranoia, but those trials are the exact framework that proves the tailor's immense value to the king. It elevates him to the highest possible status.
The shoemaker essentially engineered his own defeat.
He did. Which brings us to the story's climax. And the Grimms, they do not shy away from a brutal, symmetrical ending.
They really don't.
So, the tailor succeeds wildly. The king is overjoyed and rewards the tailor by letting him marry the eldest princess. It is the ultimate ascension. But for the shoemaker, the trap closes. As part of the wedding celebration, the shoemaker is forced to literally craft the shoes in which the tailor dances with his new royal bride.
Which is a profound psychological humiliation for someone entirely driven by ego and a desire to dominate others.
Yeah, that had to sting. And after the wedding, the king banishes the shoemaker from the city forever. He wanders back out into the wilderness. He's exhausted, sweating under the sun, shaking with rage.
Completely broken.
He eventually collapses and falls asleep. But the geography of this story is incredibly tight. He doesn't just fall asleep anywhere. He falls asleep under the very same gallows where he had abandoned the blind tailor.
He is magnetically drawn back to the site of his greatest cruelty.
And as he lies there, the two crows that were sitting on the heads of the hanged men fly down. They attack him, and they pick out his eyes.
So he is completely blinded.
Completely blind. He runs madly into the forest, deeper into the thick trees, never to be seen again. He dies in the exact same woods where he tried to execute his companion.
The symmetry is absolute. But it's not just a neat plot device. It is a closing philosophical argument from the text.
How so?
Well, the tailor was physically blinded by cruelty, right? But his vision was restored by grace because he refused to succumb to the darkness. He kept his empathy.
He spared the animals.
Exactly. The shoemaker, however, was functionally blind to empathy and interconnectedness his entire life. He couldn't see the value of community. So the natural world he sought to exploit simply made his physical reality match his psychological reality.
Wow. Looking at the entirety of this deep dive, it forces a really hard pivot in how we evaluate our own strategies for navigating the world.
It absolutely does.
If you operate from that zero-sum, deeply paranoid place like the shoemaker, you might win the short game. You might secure your 7 days of bread while someone else goes hungry.
Right.
But that paranoia creates an isolation that is entirely unsustainable.
You're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Pun intended.
Right. Eventually, your own fear will force you to burn every bridge until you end up wandering blind in the woods of your own making.
Conversely, if you view the world as a collaborative ecosystem, you have to accept vulnerability. You might run out of bread. You will likely suffer.
But by extending mercy when you have leverage, by refusing to pass your trauma on to the next person, you build an invisible web of support. And when an unpredictable world inevitably demands the impossible from you, that reciprocal network is the only thing capable of saving you.
That reframing changes how I view modern success completely.
And it leaves me with one final thought, something I really want you, the listener, to mull over long after this audio stops playing. We've dissected how the shoemaker was functionally blind long before those crows ever touched his face. But zoom out and look at our modern culture.
The parallels are definitely there.
Look at the intense rush to be hyper-independent. The massive industries built around being perfectly prepared for every disaster. This drive to hoard our own metaphorical 7 days of bread so we never ever have to rely on anyone.
It's all about self-reliance.
Exactly. In our absolute obsession with self-reliance and insulating ourselves from risk,